Hi, this is Hermilia B. Gratuito. Our lesson will be modal verbs. Modals. These are also called modal verbs, modal auxiliary verb, or modal auxiliaries. They are usually connected with ideas of doubt, certainty, possibility and probability, obligation, and permission or lack of these. They are not used to talk about things that definitely exist or events that definitely happen. These ideas are sometimes divided into two groups. The first group talks about the degrees of certainty, and it covers certainty, probability, possibility, impossibility. The second group is obligation or freedom to act. It covers permission, lack of permission, ability, obligation. The following are the list of modal verbs. We have can, could, may, might, must, shall, should, will, would, and we also have verbs or expressions like dare, ought to, had better, need not. I would like to discuss to you about the characteristic of modal verbs. Okay, the first characteristic is it provides additional and specific meaning to the main verb in the sentence. The second one is as they cannot stand alone in a sentence, they should always be followed by the base verb word, infinitive. They are never followed by to, of course, with the exception of ought to. They cannot be used in the past tenses or the future tenses. They are never used with other auxiliary verbs such as do, does, did, etc. They never change their form. You can't add s, ed, or ing. They don't use an s for the third person singular. You can only use not to make modal verbs negative, even in simple present and simple past. In making questions, we invert the subject and the verb. So, for example, she can go becomes can she go? Okay, these are the position of modal verbs. But let us first remember, modal verbs always appear in the first position at the beginning of the verb phrase. They do not show tense or number. And the following are the possible verb phrase combinations that contain modal verbs in English. They are first combination, modal verb plus base form equals an example of will eat. Second combination is modal verb plus be plus present participle equals an example will be eating. The third combination is modal verb plus have plus past participle equals an example of will have been eaten. The fourth is modal verb plus be plus past participle equals an example of will be eaten. The next one is modal verb plus have plus been plus present participle equals an example of will have been eating. The sixth combination could be modal verb plus have plus been plus past participle equals an example of will have been eaten. The next combination could be modal plus be plus being plus past participle equals an example of will be being eaten. And the last one combination could be modal verb plus have plus been plus being plus past participle equals an example of will have been being eaten. Okay, we will discuss about the functions of modal verbs, but remember these are general. We will be discussing later one by one. Okay, or uh, okay. The first function of modal verbs is for lack of necessity. The modal verb that can be used under this function is needn't. The second function is for advice. The modal verb that can be used are should or ought to. The second function could be prohibition or obligation. And the modal verbs under this could be must or mustn't. The next is function of ability. And the modal verbs could be can and could. The next function could be for permission. The modal verb are can, could, and may. The next function could be request. The modal verbs that can be used under request function is are can, could, will. The next function is for possibility. Under this function, you can use the modal verb might. The next function is for logical assumption. And the modal verbs under this are must or can't. The next function is for offer. And the modal verb that can be used under this function is shall. And the last possible function could be for suggestion. And the modal verbs are can, could, and shall. Okay, let us uh, discuss the function of the modal verb will one by one. Okay. Will can function for making personal predictions. Example, I don't think the queen will ever abdicate. Sorry. Number two, it can function for talking about the present with certainty, making deductions. I'm sure you will understand that there is nothing the department can do. Number three, can function for talking about the future with certainty. Example, don't bother ringing. They'll have left for their 10 o'clock lecture. The fourth function is for reassuring someone. Don't worry, you'll settle down quickly, I'm sure. Number five, it is for talking about the past with certainty. I'm sure you will have noticed that attendance has fallen sharply. The continuation of the functions of will are number six. It is for making a decision. For the main course, I'll have grilled tuna. 7. It is for making a semi-formal request. Will you open the window, please? It's very hot in here. The eighth function of the modal verb will is for offering to do something. You stay there. I'll fetch the drinks. Number 9 is it will function for insistence or habitual behavior. My car won't start. I'll have to call the garage. And the 10th is making a promise or a threat. You can count on me. I'll be there at 8 o'clock sharp. The next modal verb is shall. It is a form of will. It is used mostly in the first person. If contracted, it will become il. The only time you do need to use it is in questions when there could be conditions. First, making offers. For example, shall I fetch you another glass of wine? The second is for making suggestions. Shall we go to the cinema tonight? Another modal verb is may. It functions for talking about things that can happen in certain situations. Each nurse may be responsible for up to 20 patients. The second, it can function with a similar meaning to although. The experiment may have been a success, but there is still a lot of work to be done. This sentence could mean also, although it was a success, there is still blah blah blah. Another modal verb is the verb might. It can function for saying that something was possible, but did not actually happen. You saw me standing at the bus stop. You might have stopped and given me a lift. The next modal verb or modals is would. It can function as the past of will, for example, in indirect speech. The next meeting will be in a month's time. Becomes, he said the next meeting would be in a month's time. So this is an indirect speech, the second sentence. The second is it can function as polite requests and offers or a softer form of will. Would you give me a ring after lunch? The third is it can function in conditionals to indicate distance from reality, imagined, unreal, or impossible situations. If I ruled the world, every day would be the first day of spring. So the whole year is springtime. It's impossible. Number 4, it would function after the word wish to show regret or irritation over someone or something, or refusal or insistence on doing something, present or future. I wish it would snow. The fifth is it would can function for talking about past habits or similar meaning to used to. When I was small, we would always visit relatives on Christmas Day. The sixth function of the modal verb would is for future in the past. The assassination would become one of the key events of the century. Modal verb can or could. It can function for talking about ability. Can you speak Mandarin? This is in the present tense. So in the past tense, you could say, she could play the piano when she was 5. This is in the past tense. It could function also for making requests. Can you give me a ring at about 10? Okay. If you notice, there is the word can, and so this is in the present tense. Could you speak up a bit, please? slightly more formal, polite, or softer. So if you can see the difference, there is the word could. So this one is an expression in the past. Okay. The third function is for asking permission. Can I ask you a question? So meaning present tense. Could I ask you a personal question? Well, it is more formal, polite, or indirect. It may not be necessarily as past tense. Okay. The fourth one is reported speech. Could is used as the past of can. He asked me if I could pick him up after work. The fifth is they can function for general possibility. You can drive when you're 17. Okay, this one is in the present tense. Women couldn't vote until just after the First World War. Okay, if you can notice, we are talking in this sentence First World War. So it has used couldn't. Continuation of the function of can and could. Sixth, it can function for choice and opportunities. If you want some help with your writing, you can come to classes or you can get some one-on-one help. Okay, there are can and can opportunities. We could go to Stratford tomorrow, but the forecast not brilliant. Okay, so there is also the word could or the modal verb could. It is less definite. The seventh function of the modal can and could is for future probability. Could, not can, is sometimes used in the same way as might or may, often indicating something less definite. So, when I leave university, I might travel around a bit. I might do an MA, or so I suppose I could even get a job. The eighth function of the modal verb can or could is for present possibility. I think you could be right, you know. Okay, if you notice, can is not used on this. That can be the right answer. It just doesn't make sense. The next function of can and could be used for past possibility. If I'd known the lecture had been cancelled, I could have stayed in bed longer. The next modal is must. It can function for necessity and obligation. Is used to indicate personal obligation, what you think you yourself or other people things must do. Example, I really must get some exercise. The second function is for strong advice and invitations. I think you really must make more of an effort. You must come and see me next time you're in town. The third function of the modal must is for saying you think something is certain. This must be the place. There's a white car parked outside, so it is certain. You must be mad. What a sun time. You must have had great weather. Should. The modal should, formerly past tense of shall. In general statements of what is right or becoming. It can use ought. It can function for giving advice. I think you should go for the Alpha rather than the Audi. You shouldn't have ordered that chocolate dessert. You're not going to finish it. The second function of the modal should is for obligation. It is a weak form of must. The university should provide more sports facilities. 3. For deduction. The letter should get to you tomorrow. I posted it first class. Fourth function of the modal should is for things which didn't or may not have happened. You shouldn't have spent so much time on that first question. Okay, the expression ought to. It has the same meaning as should, particularly in affirmative statements in the present. It is always followed by to plus infinitive. Should is much more common and easier to say. So if you're not sure, you should instead of ought to. You should or you ought to get your hair cut. The expression dare. Dare is to have the courage to do something. It is mostly used in interrogative and negative sentences. How dare you interrupt him? We dare not remain here. Another modal expression is had better. These refer to the present or to the future. This is a strong expression. These talk about actions we think people should do or which are desirable in a specific situation. In the question form of had better, it is made by inverting the subject and had. Okay? So, in this question we say, had we better leave a note for the delivery guy to take the parcel next door? There is also the phrase be better or be best. Plus to infinitive is to give advice in a specific situation. An example can be, it's always better to be safe than sorry. We can also use would rather or would prefer instead of had better when we talk about preferences. So, I'd better get a taxi. The buses are so slow. Or I would rather get a taxi. Or I would prefer to get a taxi. The buses are so slow. So it depends on you. The expression need not. This expresses lack of necessity or absence of obligation. Example, I need not buy tomatoes. There are plenty of tomatoes in the fridge. Okay, this time we will have exercises. Select the best answer. Number 1. I was using my pencil a minute ago. It can, could, must, would be here somewhere. Number 2. I could, should, would talk already before I was 2 years old. 3. Ted's flight from Amsterdam took more than 11 hours. He must, can, had better be exhausted after such a long flight. 4. You shouldn't, can't, don't have to be rich to be a success. Some of the most successful people I know haven't got a penny to their name. 5. Jenny's engagement ring is enormous. It must be costing, must have cost, must cost a fortune. Sixth, if I had gone to the University of Miami, I could be, could, could have participated in their Spanish immersion program. Seventh, yesterday, I must, had to, should, cram all day for my friend's final. I didn't get to sleep until after midnight. 8. Will, must, shall we move into the living room? It's more comfortable in there and there's a beautiful view of the lake. 9. You may, would, might leave the table once you have finished your meal and politely excuse yourself. 10. You can't, won't be able to, couldn't do the job if you didn't speak Japanese fluently. 11. Which one of the pair expresses an ability? A. Can I lift that for you? B. I can lift that easily. 12. Which one of the pair expresses an obligation? A. I must go to the dentist. B. I can't go to the dentist. 13. Which one of the pair expresses a request? A. Could we meet on Thursday? Or B. We could meet on Thursday. 14. Which one of the pair expresses a request for permission? A. Could I go now? Or B. I could go now. 15. Which one of the pair expresses a suggestion? A. Could we meet on Thursday? Or B. We could meet on Thursday. 16. Which one of the pair expresses an ability? A. He could speak several languages. Or B. He could speak to the boss. 17. Which one of the pair expresses an offer? A. Can you give me a hand? Or B. I can give you a hand. 18. Which one of the pair expresses an invitation? A. We must go out for a drink. Or B. We must get out of the building. 19. Which one of the pair expresses advice? A. You should speak to a lawyer. Or B. You may speak to a lawyer. And the last one is identify the modal verb and modality or definition. I will finish my essay tonight, even if I have to forgo sleep. What is the pair? A. Will for intention or B. Will for future. Okay? Have you done that correctly now? Let us evaluate your answers. Okay, this is the answer key. Number 1, must. Number 2, could. Number 3, must. Number 4, don't have to. Number 5, must have cost. 6, could have. 7, had to. 8, shall. 9, may. 10, couldn't. Let's go to number 11. It is letter B. I can lift that easily. Number 12. Letter A, I must go to the dentist. 13, letter A, could we meet on Thursday? 14, also A, could I go now? 15 is letter B, we could meet on Thursday. 16th is letter A, we could speak several languages. 17 is letter B, I can give you a hand. 18th is letter A, we must go out for a drink. 19th is letter A, you should speak to a lawyer. And 20, letter A, the combination of will and intention. Thank you very much. I hope to see you next lesson. Again, this is Hermilia B. Gratuito.